cover is how we're creating this output string. This is actually a little bit tedious, and I'd like to show you a different way of writing this. We're going to use, first off, I'm going to show you how to write it using placeholders. So we can write ahoy captain blank blank off the larboard bow. And then we can call the format method, and we're going to pass in article and word. And what's happening here is when we do it like this, the first placeholder gets filled in with the first value that you give to format. And then the second placeholder gets filled in with the second value. So this is a little different way of writing this. Let's make sure it works. Make test. Looks just fine. My preferred way of writing, though, is to use what are called F strings. So I put an F in front of the string, and now instead of just putting the placeholder inside the placeholder, I can actually put the word, the value itself that I want to appear there. And it always shortens it up a little bit because I don't have to call dot format. And for me, I like this because visually I can see right where the value is going to go. I can run this, make sure it runs just fine. Yep, a frigate. And one of the things that's really cool here is that, for instance, let's say I wanted to make that uppercase. I can actually put code into this placeholder. So if I wanted to shout about that, a frigate off the larboard bow, I can do that. You can put some quite complicated code inside these braces, so it's really a very convenient way, I think, to write, to interpolate the values. So that's what this is called. When we're not going to print a literally article, we want to print whatever is the value of article. That's called variable interpolation. One of the things to note here in the sidebar here is that Python is dynamically typed. So as we're going along, word is set to a string. If at any point I came along here and say I set word equal to the value 10, which is an integer value, Python wouldn't complain about that. And then if I use an integer in a place where I would be normally using a string, Python's not going to complain about that either. So it's one of the downsides of having a dynamically typed language. We don't ever say here that word is a string and should always be a string and can never be used as anything but a string. It's just something to consider as we go forward. So stepping back, that's pretty much the program. You should be able to write it. We've basically written it together. The problems will get much harder from here out, but this first one, I hope that I've stepped you through how to use it. So to recap, we started off using new py and filled in the get args to have a single positional argument, and we were able to also copy from the appendix one of the examples which had a single positional argument. We got the first character of the word by calling word.0, word at index 0. Unless we want to check both upper and lower case, it's best to use the upper or lower methods to force to one case or the other. Since I decided it would be easiest to check if that thing is a vowel, since there are only 5, but if you would rather check against the consonants, that's up to you. I thought it was best to use the X in Y syntax to see if that first character is in the list of vowels, but you could perhaps do it a different way. To format the output, the first version that we used strings and the plus sign to use string concatenation, which is how we did it in the hello program. But then I showed you 2 other ways, one using the format method of a string where you put in placeholders, and the other using F strings, where you are actually able to interpolate the value directly in the string. So, and then the other thing that I hope that I showed is constant use of the tests and constantly running your program so that you can verify that it is working. So we can continue talking about the solution and how I did it in the next bit.